No, it's really interesting. The consumer, I wouldn't say they're looking at prices as I need to, I'm going for the best price of coffee, et cetera. They're really curating their basket. So instead of looking at the single most dislocated price, they're looking at what is in my cart and what is that one thing that I need. So it's very much a curation of
It's a unit study.
It's definitely looking at how many items are in my basket.
If consumers are paying $4.22 a gallon, that's 50% higher or 40% higher than it was before the war. That's got to come from somewhere. How are consumers adjusting or planning to adjust?
Consumers, we're almost at this point where consumers don't really know what the price point to look at. Gas prices are shocking because you see them even as New Yorkers who may not have a car or drive every day. When you see that flash up $6 a gallon, it does sit with you emotionally. But the consumer is willing to spend, and it really is about the intentionality. So we've, for me, I spend a lot of time in and around the consumer. We do a consumer survey. And this past survey, we really want to think about where is the consumer going this summer. And there's still a lot of intentionality. So summer travel is definitely still in the books, even though you see gas prices.
And now the consumer question, the surveillance queen of intentionality, Alexis Christoforous. Help us here, Alexis. Aisle 5 at the store. What are we consuming?
Oh my gosh. I like to look at what's on sale, and I have that sort of guide the menu, if you will, for the night. And then I always like to get my staples out, the paper goods. They're quite expensive, the paper goods.
Are we doing staples? Or are we doing private label? Is it like old school like that?
The consumer is, when you ask the consumer, are they spending on the essentials or are they spending on discretionary? They're always going to say gas and food are high. But our survey suggests that 6 out of 10 consumers are still traveling. They plan to spend on discretionary items that might even be big ticket items like travel. So I think you do see a consumer that, despite, in previous shocks, whether it was 2001, 2008, when you had the rise of the staycation and everybody want to stay home because you're saving on gas prices, we actually see a majority of consumers still planning to make those summer trips.
How about wellness? I see people come in here.
Didn't we ban that?
I think but everybody comes in here with those Oura rings, and they're always checking out with their heart rate, and they're sleeping, and they're spending all kinds of money on wellness. Is that still a thing?
Yeah, so wellness is still a thing. We thought it was really interesting that, of our survey, all the different areas that they are spending, it's on vitamins and supplements, up 25%. And I think it's really related to, it's not just about longevity these days. You have to think about, it's not enough to make it to 90. You have to actually optimize your performance. And if you look about, a lot of the benefits that you might have, whether it's around sleep and making sure you're optimizing your sleep, I actually think that's correlated to the decline we see in spirits and, alcoholic beverages. People are making choices about their well-being.
Okay, so David Rubenstein and Henry Kravis, they own Solgar, which is like fancy pills.
Oh,
okay. And David, he's cut and chiseled. That's the way he rolls. And so they do some transactions, and Bountiful sells his puppy to Nestle for more money than God. This is the new big business. Wellness is at the margin. What matters to these companies, right?
Yeah, I really think, if I think about what the theme is, both for spend in your daily rituals, so what am I doing every morning when I'm getting ready, or in those annual rituals that you think about, like those pilgrimages that I'm taking, it really is about a curation of spend. So the consumer isn't off track completely, given where we are in the job market and where, wages are keeping up to some extent with inflation. You don't have this cliff that you saw in other recessionary periods. And so you are able to make choices. So it's a choiceful, it's a purpose-driven consumer. And
she's got,
Here's one, Tom, you're going to like.
Consultant.
Tom, you're going to love this one.
What in God's name? When you were at Darden, nobody was talking choiceful, right?
Yeah, no, but it is really, it gets to the sentiment. So when we think about, I'm spending a lot of time talking about vacations this summer, and we see that 60% of our consumers are going to travel, but 1 in 4 of all consumers are doing it based on an event. So they're making a choice about what they want to do and how they want to spend, and it's related to kind of their thinking. They may have money or they may not. They may have a job or they may not, but it's about what do I value and how is that interpreted?
So like when you write a tuition check, that's choiceful?
That's very
Paul,
choiceful.
save me here right now.
27% of consumers use AI tools when planning trips, up from 14% 2 years ago.
One in
Really?
3. 1 in 3 consumers are using some type.
Yeah, you just plug in, give me a 7-day itinerary in Portugal with sun and good food, and seconds later,
It's
there
really
it is.
Changed.
Wow.
But
I do.
what's really interesting about the way that you think about the user experience when I go into ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever I'm going to use, it's not about I want to go to Portugal. It might be I need a break. Like this, there's no shortage of stress on the U.S.
Right.
consumer. So they're actually going in with the intent. It's kind of instead of a staycation that we had previously when we talked about recessions and people staying at home, it was the whycation.